Hello, hello, hello. How are we doing this week? My hope and prayer is that you all had a lovely 4th of July holiday weekend. And I also hope that you all are doing what you need to do in order to stay safe in this incredible heat wave that we're experiencing during this time. So please stay hydrated. But again, welcome back to the SOS 20-week live challenge. I'm Dr. Lori Smith, a former federal contracting officer, the CEO of Acu-Elligent LLC, and the founder of SONRC's Empowerment. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, y'all, we are here. One topic, one teaching moment, one shift that can change how your business operates, and that's a wonderful thing. Now, if you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. I spent over 40 years in the federal government in logistics and contracting, with the last 21 of those years as a federal contracting officer on the other side of the table, evaluating proposals, managing 143 billion in federal contracts, advising over 11,000 contractors, and watching businesses win big or fall apart from before they ever got started, right? So this challenge takes everything I've learned and puts it directly in your hands. Now, this is week 14 of 20. Yeah, we're almost there. And last week we talked about why you feel like you're making progress but not results. And if you missed it, please go back and watch the replay because every week builds on the week before. But today, we're going to get into something different, but also critical. We're going to be talking about your systems are missing. But before we get into today's topic, let's do what we've been doing for the past few weeks, and that's get grounded in what is moving. Because this week's list is a masterclass actually in the exact problem we're talking about today. 6 regulatory shifts hit my desk this week, and I'm mindful that my hits may not be all inclusive, but this is what I'm tracking, right? And every single one requires a system to respond to, not a scramble, not a heroic all-nighter, a system. And without one, this list is just noise. But with one, what it is and what it becomes is actually a scorecard. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. So the first thing, and this is the one on the clock, the SBA proposed rule that rewrites the social disadvantage test for the 8A program, the Federal Register document 2026-11-765. It was published on June 11th. It has its comment period closing this coming Monday, that's July the 13th. And so that's 5 days from today. So if enacted, or 5 days, 5 days from today. So if enacted, this rule would actually eliminate the rebuttable presumption of social disadvantage and require every individually owned applicant to prove disadvantage through evidence, not narrative. And just as a reminder, and as we have been reporting, tribal ANCs, NHOs, and CDC-owned entity firms are explicitly not affected by this proposed rule. So if you are pursuing the 8A as an individual, this is your last window to submit comments through the federal e-rulemaking portal. The second thing, the FAR Council posted updated class deviation text for FAR Part 16 on July the 1st, and legal analysis of the specifics, came out yesterday, July the 7th. Now, this implements Executive Order 14402, and it is the fixed price preference rule with teeth. So starting July 15, 1 week from today, any new solicitation from for a contract type that is not fixed price requires an approved justification before it can be released. That means time and material, labor hour, cost reimbursement, and letter contracts all need agency head level justification, and that cannot be delegated below the chief acquisition officer or a non-career SES. But I want to just pause right here, and this is what I want to say. Again, I was on the other side of the table. I'm a former contracting specialist, contracting officer. And what I will tell you in the environments that I have worked in, I've worked in several agencies, DOD and civilian agency alike. And anytime we wanted to do a cost reimbursement type contract or time and material contract or a labor hour contract, yeah, we had to get approval to do that anyway. So when I say for a whole lot of stuff, it's nothing new under the sun. But again, we dressing up a pig, putting lipstick on it. Okay, that very well. This is just my take, my opinion. But what we are doing is advising you of what's happening behind the curtain. And for the most part, you may not ever see it or impact it. But if you have been in or operate solely in a cost reimbursement type environment, those type of awards may be or transactions may be a bit slow, as you know the contracting offices level set. There are various thresholds. The dollar thresholds that trigger the requirements are 100 million at the DoD level, 35 million at NASA, 25 million at DHS, and 10 million at every other agency for existing contract or order with 18 months or more of performance remaining as of July the 15th. Now, the justification is due no later than July the 15th, 2027. So again, expect delays if you have operated in a non-fixed price award while agencies build, whatever model that they're going to go to or justification kind of muscle. But just be mindful that for the most part, a lot of the changes and a lot of the notice that you all are seeing, internal policy has always driven, some of these rules anyway. So again, should be invisible to you, but just know this is what your contracting professionals are having to do on the other side of the wall. The third thing, capital news. SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler announced yesterday that on July the 7th that borrowers can now combine that 7A and 504 loans for up to 10 million in SBA-backed financing. We talked about this earlier in this challenge, but now it's effective. That policy change actually went into effect on July the 4th. And so that is double the previous $5 million cumulative cap that used to be in place through the through for qualified borrowers. So what you can do now is secure that 7A loan first. Can now access up to the 5 million through the 7A and the 504. So you can duplicate it now. So small manufacturers that can already stack unlimited 504 loans now per project, now you're eligible to go after that 7A money and for up to that $5 million to on top of what you're already doing with that 504. So if you have been capital constrained on real estate, equipment, or working capital for growth, this is a materially different lending environment as of this weekend. But all cautious, again, talk to your accountants, your various your banking institutions to see what is the best route for you and your company, because at the end of the day, any money you get, you do have to pay it back. So be able to do that as well. The fourth thing is a Court of Federal Claims decision that okay, let me slow down. So recently there was a decision that came out as relates to Revelations Counseling and Consulting versus the United States. Now, this is something that every service-disabled veteran-owned small business and veteran-owned small business firm, again, needs to hear. So this case, the decision was reported on the 30th of June, and what the court did was they upheld the VA's rejection of a service-disabled veteran-owned small business proposal because the firm omitted the signed VAR, that's VAAR, that's the VA supplement, clause 852.219-75, certificate of compliance. And so what they did was paraphrase compliance language in the proposal text. But that was ruled insufficient. So the court called mandatory minimal submission requirements per se material. So the translation is that if a solicitation says submit the signed certificate, you submit the signed certificate, no exceptions, no restatement. And that is very key as relates for even as relates to responsiveness. If they're asking for you to submit certain documentations or in a certain type of format, And if there's a clause that you're required to comply with, just comply with the standard, because they're not going to take your exception. And please don't paraphrase and or rewrite any government language without unless you're authorized to do so. So be mindful of that. So again, if they ask you to submit something in solicitation, submit it. No exceptions, and please don't restate nothing, because otherwise it'll get kicked out. And as you can see right here, that was an opportunity that they potentially could have probably won. It had some good standing, but your proposal got kicked out because you didn't provide that certificate compliance. So be mindful of that. The fifth thing, Executive Order 14398. That's the one addressing the DEI discrimination by federal contractors. Again, it is now under active legal challenge. Now we have 20 state attorney generals plus the District of Columbia have filed a suit in the District of Maryland on June the 10th. And last Thursday, on July the 2nd, a coalition of AGs also filed a comment letter opposing the related information collection request, arguing that it violates the Paperwork Reduction Act. So practically, this means the DEI certification and reporting clauses that have started appearing in federal contracts are not settled law. So if a certification lands on your desk, again, document your review process, but know the underlying authority is still being litigated. So you must respond if you want to maintain that actual government contract. And the sixth thing is there's a hard, this is just a hard deadline reminder. We talked about this previously as well. Mid-year individual subcontracting reports, again, they are due Tuesday, July the 14th. That's 6 days from today. GSA revised the ISR eligibility logic in the subcontracting plan reporting workspace on the 9th of June. So new records in the eligible workspace do not automatically trigger an ISR requirement anymore. So you have to actually evaluate each subcontracting plan tied to each record. So if you have a subcontracting plan on a prime contract, do not assume the system will tell you. So just check every record before Tuesday. So and again, old information, anything that's in the system is popping up, and you probably wasn't tracking or paying attention to it previously. Just open up everything, review it, and make sure it does not require you to do anything. Don't just make any kind of assumptions, because if you do not check it before Tuesday, after Tuesday, you can shift over into that non-compliance status, and that you don't want to do that. So which of these affects your business directly? Drop the number, 1 through 6, in the comments, read everyone. And if it tells me, and again, I read everything that you all are putting out here, because what it does, it tells me what to teach deeper inside of my SOS community. So that's your regulatory situation as for this week. Now let's get into today's teaching, and it's going to be a good one. So I want to show you the difference between two businesses doing the exact same work. So let's say we have business A. The owners knows how everything works because she built it all herself. When something goes wrong, she fixes it. When something needs to be done, okay, she does it or explains it from scratch every time. Nothing is written down. Every process lives in her head. Then you got business B. They're doing the same type of work, but there's a documented onboarding process. There's a documented project management workflow. There's a documented client communication protocol. They even have a documented financial review rhythm and a hiring guide. So when something goes wrong, there's a protocol. When something needs to be done, there's a system. Same services, same industry, completely different futures. So which business can grow? Which one can bring on staff without chaos? Which one can take on more clients without the owner burning out? So yeah, you already know the answer. So we're going to talk about how to become business B. Because quite a few of us, and again, I always teach to the choir, and I'm part of the choir. We've been trying to do everything by ourselves, and now it's time to, to just document, to get it outside our heads. And if nothing reminded us of the significance of making sure everything is documented. It is these continual policy changes, the shift, the adjustments, the chaos, that all the changes have caused, us. So let's talk about how to be a better business. So the absence of a system is not just an inconvenience. It is a compounding liability. And I think we talked about compounding, like the last week or the week before. And so in essence, every time you do something without a system, you are making a new decision from scratch. Every time a client asks a question that isn't answered somewhere in your infrastructure, you stop what you're doing to answer it. Every time you onboard a new client without a process, you reinvent the wheel. Every time you bring a team member without a documentation, you train you train actually from your memory. So this is time, you don't have. This is the energy you cannot afford to keep spending. Not this way. And the cumulative cost of running a systemless business is enormous because it's just invisible because what it does, it's spread out across 1,000 small moments. And so we may not think that we see it, and you may be telling yourself, hey, I'm handling it. I'm making it work. But again, it's not something we're going to be able to sustain. And we don't see it because it's spread out across so many small moments. So I want you to type system in the comments if you can name 3 core processes in your business right now that are not documented anywhere. Just 3, because I want you to feel the weight of that. When you can document 3 processes and 3 things that you're doing that's not documented, that means that, man, every time I do these actions or engage in this particular process, I'm doing everything from scratch. I'm recalling everything from memory. I got to go reteach and retrain somebody else when I can document everything that I did, put it in a SOP, and when I have to do it again, if somebody else have to help me out, they at least can read and follow the instructions that's been documented. Because the truth of it is that systems are not about being corporate. And sometimes I think when people hear the word systems, they think, oh man, that's too stuffy. It's corporate. It's so official. Yeah, somewhat. But what that does is it frees us up. So systems is not about locking you down. They are about being free. Every system you build is a decision you will never have to make again from scratch. And that is very important. Every documented process is time returned to you every single time someone follows it. Every protocol is a quality standard that doesn't require your personal supervision to maintain. So systems are what separate businesses or what separate businesses that can scale from those businesses that can only survive. And at some point in time, we got to get out of the survival mode. So when we continue to say, I'm doing, and I'm not getting any results, okay, do you have systems in place? Where's your bottleneck at? What's stifling your growth? We can want all we want, but as I shared previously, and even I talk about in my GovCon Clarity podcast, going after more work that we can't handle only let folks know that, hey, you have holes in your infrastructure. Let's patch up some gaps. That's all we're doing is getting ready to be able to go out and do the things that we desire to do. So here's how to start building systems that actually work. The first thing you want to do is you want to document your client journey from the first contact to final delivery. I just pick up a blank piece of paper or open up a new document on your computer. Walk through every step a client takes from the moment they first hear about you to the moment your engagement ends. Write down every touch point, every communication, every deliverable, every decision point. You will likely discover that a significant portion of this journey is inconsistent, it's unclear, or entirely undocumented. And that is your system building roadmap. So again, just write down from the first time they connect with you to the end of the engagement. Every touch point. Write down everything. And I promise you, if you do this, this is how you will identify what is missing or the inconsistencies or what never existed or is undocumented. And this becomes your system building roadmap. Then the second thing I want you to do is use the if-then framework to build decision systems. So whenever you notice yourself making the same decision repeatedly, document it as an if-then rule. If a client asks for a deadline extension, then if a vendor misses a deliverable, then, what's the, if they ask me, then what do I do? If they miss a deliverable, then what is next? If a new lead inquires, then the first response is, these micro decisions, once documented, they actually becomes your team operating manual. They preserve your judgment without requiring your presence every time. So if you've used the if-then framework to document the things that, hey, if this happened or if this don't happen, then we're going to do this here. They already know how you think. They already know what your expectations are. And so even if you're not there, your team members or anyone you bring on and anyone you outsource this work to are going to follow your standard rules of engagements and whatever your procedures are and comply with your expectation. And what you've done is preserve your judgments in the four corners of a document, whether that's figuratively or digitally. You put it down in paper in some form or another. And so now my judgment is preserved. Now I don't have to be there every time. They already know what I think. And then the third thing I want you to do is I want you to start with the highest failure risk process in your business. Don't try to systemize everything at once. I want you to start with a process that when it breaks down, it costs you the most in time, money, client trust, or even team stress. For most businesses, that client onboarding or financial management. So it's either going to be client onboarding or financial management for most businesses. And then I want you to build a tight system there first. Let that win give you the motivation and the framework to build the next one. So again, we don't have to build everything out at once. Start with the highest failure risk process in your business. What is the one thing that you need to get documented in order to be able to scale, in order to be able to onboard client and able to preserve your time and able to, get to the money? It's maintain the trust with your clients. Document that. So which area of your business, most urgently needs a system right now? Is it client management, finances, marketing, delivery, or team? Just, drop your answer in the chat box, because, again, just interested and curious to know where we're all at, because at the end of the day, we all may be on different pathways towards our journey or towards our goal, but there are multiple people that very well may be experiencing the same thing, and that is how we encourage one another. So at the conversion, when we get to the SOS conversion, the goal is to actually map these systems. And what you're going to do is lead with a documented process, not just an idea to do it. And that's the difference between a conversation and a transformation. So if you're ready to build systems, that last drop, just drop the word build, in comments, and let's get you in the room, right? So your business can only grow as far as your systems can support. So I want you to start building the infrastructure your vision deserves. And we are 14 weeks in, and you are showing up, and that matters. And so I will see you next Wednesday. Okay? But before I go, okay, that's week 14 of the SOS 20-week live challenge. If today's conversation hit home, do 3 things for me right now. I want you to share this live with someone who needs to hear it. You know exactly who came to mind while I was talking. I want you to tag them, send them the replay. This kind of teaching doesn't stay available forever. The second thing I want you to do is, if you're not already inside our Sow NRC's Facebook community, come on over and start asking some questions. And when you get into Facebook, all you have to do is search Sow NRC's. It's very easy to join. just request to join and we'll welcome you aboard. And because that's where the real conversations continue, between these lives. I do have people that send me DMs and I am responding to those requests accordingly. So you may not see everything inside of the chat because I do try to maintain integrity and protect whatever. If someone DM me, it's for my eyes only. And so I do respect that. But I will respond if you reach out to me. But there's no need to do anything particularly, just come on in and just join us directly, right? And then the third thing is I want to talk about is about the SOS conversions. What I need to do is share a quick update with you. So I'm having to reschedule the conversion because of a potential medical procedure. And so a new date, I'm still conferring back and forth with the doctors. We're trying to come up with a date that does not impact either my health or, continue to require me to change. And so the new date is on the way. So I should know something on the 17th and next month, 17th of this month. So just give me a few more days or another week or so, and I will provide you with a new date. So please stay tuned. And thank you for your patience because everything we're building in these 20 weeks still comes together in that room. And we're just moving the room just to a new date. So be mindful of that. And then one more thing I just want to talk about before I go. Next Wednesday, on the 15th of July, I am launching the 3-part VETR proposal webinar series. And that's value, experience, teaming, and responsiveness. It's 3 sessions that are going to be happening on the 15th, the 27th, the 29th of July. And all of them will occur between 11:30 and 11:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this series is built especially for, the set-aside businesses or the small businesses or any size business, and actually, but I am a woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, so I do operate from that space. And so, and whether you have those certifications and even HubZone teams, it is built for those who are just tired of starting from scratch with every RFP. So section 1 is the VETR proposal overview and readiness vision. Session 2, we're going to walk through the VETR framework in a real federal evaluation. Session 3 will actually takes you from capture to submission. And so the registration will be going live on various social media platforms, as well as in Eventbrite, to include our SORC's community by at least close of business tomorrow. Is the latest status that I received. So the link is coming out. Please join. It's a free webinar to talk about the platform. So come learn, how to build a repeatable federal proposal system instead of a one-off heroic proposal. And so you might ask, okay, well, what is VETR? Well, VETR is actually why it exists. VETR proposal is a readiness-driven proposal platform that I built for set-aside contractors. The name is the framework, value, experience, teaming, and responsiveness. The 4 dimensions actually federal evaluators actually score against. And so I built it because I watched too many capable small businesses treat every RFP like this heroic sprint from scratch, pulling past performance from memory, rebuilding teaming and ad hoc, drafting compliance narratives under deadline pressure. And VETR proposal actually replaces that pattern with a repeatable system. It structures the full proposal life cycle from RFP intake to submission. It anchors your capture and the proposal work to the 4 dimensions, evaluators score, and uses AI to support the capture and proposal discipline federal contracts demand. It don't replace your judgment. It does not replace the judgment that you bring to the table. But winning federal contracts consistently is a systems problem, not a talent problem. And what I am saying is that VETR proposal is the productization of a version of that belief. And so I'm excited about what VETR is going to do and be to the community collectively as a whole. You come and join us on the webinar. Each of those afternoon, we will be having a surprise offer that we're going to be announcing after each webinar, and the offers will only stay live 24 hours after the webinar. So if for no other reason, come and hear what that is, because you'll only have access to it, after the fact, and if you join each of the webinars. But I'm very excited about the platform, and I hope you are interested or curious, about it as well. Again, I'm Dr. Lori Smith. Hey, same time next Wednesday, we are talking about survival mode and how to get out of it. So as I always say, as I sign out of my podcast, I bringing it over here as well, because the bottom line is readiness protects what ambition pursues. So build what holds the opportunity and what holds you. Bye-bye.